This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder.
Lisa Sweasy is the curator of the Vent Haven Museum. It's a unique location housing more than 1,100 dummies used by ventriloquists dating from the 19th century to present day. It's the world's only museum dedicated to ventriloquism. You'll find it in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, which is where Lisa is joining us via Zoom. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, how are you doing? It's nice to speak with you, Peter.
Nice to have you on the program as well. Now, when did this all start? I understand it opened in around 1973?
That's right. That's when the public opening was. The museum started as a private collection by a man named William Shakespeare Berger, who lived from 1878 to 1972. He was an amateur ventriloquist, but not a professional one. And he just had a real love of the art form. So he started collecting dummies and puppets and ephemera and posters, recordings, scripts, everything you can imagine. Started collecting in earnest in 1932. And he spent 40 years of his life amassing this huge collection. About 10 years before he died, he made it into a nonprofit organization. So it's been a nonprofit since 1961, and it's been open to the public since 1973.
Okay, so again, it was open to the public only after his death. So what facilitated that all taking place?
Well, he would have people come through. Majority of those people, of course, were ventriloquists while he was alive. You know, you're thinking about what was available as far as promotion goes. He was a bigwig in the ventriloquism circles, but there was really no way of advertising that would be, cost effective. So he would have, the neighbors would come through and they'd bring their family and things like that, but it just wasn't really treated like a roadside attraction at that point. He would have to know the person directly for them to come through. So when he passed in 72, it had already been decided that it would become a tourist attraction. So the first curator who moved in 73, she was the one that began giving public tours.
Now, I understand that Fort Mitchell, Kentucky is about 5 miles from Cincinnati, so it's near a major metropolitan center. How busy is the Vent Haven Museum?
Well, I am very busy, actually. I've given 2 tours so far today. I take groups through 5 days a week. I'm usually closed on Mondays and Thursdays, and I'm booked up almost solid the rest of the time. So we have the tourists who come through. That makes up a huge population. And then we also have an annual convention every July since 1975, and that brings ventriloquists from around the world. I also do, we have open houses and things like that, but it stays pretty busy here.
Now, the art of ventriloquism has ebbs and flows when it comes to its popularity. Right about now, thanks to some shows like America's Got Talent and other shows like that, we're seeing more and more ventriloquists and more ventriloquism. I'm just wondering, when the ebb and flow takes place of the genre as a whole, do you see an effect of that in the amount of people who come?
I certainly think that public awareness does drive traffic to any kind of facility or museum or attraction. In my particular situation, I started working here at Vent Haven in 2000, and that was before, of course, any social media, anything like that. And it was before Jeff Dunham's career really blew up. I mean, he's a huge name in ventriloquism now, and he's well known. So his popularity absolutely drove traffic here as that increased and has increased. The other thing that's really brought ventriloquism, I think, to the public awareness has been the America's Got Talent, like you said, particularly with children. When Darcy Lynn won that show as a 12-year-old 6 years ago, the number of visitors I had who were, under 15 or 16 years old just really quadrupled. It's been phenomenal to watch how the one leads the other. Prior to those two things happening, my tourism was less. It was word of mouth, and it was just people who were really scouring the internet for the one-off thing to do. Whereas now it's a lot more difficult for me to fit everyone in.
I mentioned that you have more than 1,100 dummies. How many do you have in total? And is it always increasing? And if it is increasing, do you sometimes replace newer ones with ones that, for lack of a better term, aren't as popular or as complete as newer ones you're getting?
For today, the collection is, I believe the latest number is 1,189, and I just got one dropped off 2 days ago, so he'll join the collection. It is a constantly growing collection. The number that are out new this year that are new to the collection, they're not new pieces, but they're new to the collection. I believe I have 68 new pieces that tourists will see this year. Usually the collection grows by a couple of dozen pieces every year. And so yes, we've had to implement a rotation policy. So everything that is donated, it does get its first year here on display. And then after that, it depends on what the themes are for whatever the latest exhibits that I'm putting together on, what those themes are. Like this year, I'm doing an exhibit on Punch and Judy, for example. So those pieces are out, whereas they might not be out if it weren't for that special exhibit. And the other thing I do is I try to follow the American Museum standards, which is, to have things rotate on and off exhibit. So usually visitors see about 700, 750 of the dummies and puppets, and then the balance are off exhibit, and then I'll switch out about 100 every year.
Now, I understand that you have some replica figures that were used by Edgar Bergen and Paul Winchell and Sherry Lewis, but you have authentic performance pieces by the likes of Willie Tyler, Jay Johnson, who people might remember on Soap, Terry Fader, and Jeff Dunham, and also Darcy Lynn, who you mentioned earlier.
Yes, the majority of the collection, 99% of the collection, are not replicas. They are the performance pieces that the person used. For example, we do have an authentic lamb chop here from Sherry Lewis that Mallory Lewis has lent us, so that's really nice. With regard to Charlie and Mortimer, those are replicas. Edgar Bergen had decided to donate Charlie and Mortimer to the Smithsonian, so that's where they are, and I believe that's where Jerry Mahoney and Knucklehead Smith are too, Paul Winchell's dummies. But everything is, Willie Tyler's items are, we have his first Lester. Now, he still has the Lester that most people would recognize because he's still using it. But then, Jeff Dunham's pieces, all of our pieces from him are performance pieces that he retired and then made new ones of. Darcy Lynn's Petunia is here. Now, one of the things I think the misconceptions about it is that everything is necessarily one of a kind. But it's being a ventriloquist is a lot like being a musician, where if you play guitar, you might have a favorite guitar, but you're going to have more than one guitar. So, for example, with Darcy Lynn's Petunia, we have one, but so does she. So they're identical, and they could be switched out for each other, and they were switched out for each other. But you would never go into a situation being unprepared for a disaster as an entertainer.
Absolutely. Now, I understand that you have coming up an event called the Dummy Run. It's taking place on June 30th. Tell us about that.
So the Dummy Run, thank you for bringing it up. The Dummy Run was started as a fundraiser. We started a capital funds campaign in 2017 and to raise money for a new building. And one of the events that we developed at that time was a 5K that people can run or they can walk. It's really lovely. The whole thing is set in our residential area. It's a beautiful community to run or walk through. And we just have a lot of fun with it. So it's called the Dummy Run. And in your registration packet, you get a photo of the dummy that you're running for. And so if you win in your division, then your little dummy holds a tiny little trophy. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great fundraiser, but more than that, even, it's great community outreach, and everybody has a blast.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned earlier that you're getting a lot of younger people showing up, especially after Darcy Lynn's success on TV. So based on that alone, when people come to the museum, besides taking a look at the plethora of dummies that you have available for them to take a look at and view, Is there anything as far as an educational or instructive process that, for instance, kids who think they might want to become ventriloquists rather, can partake in?
Absolutely. We definitely have education as part of our mission. And when people come here, they can take one lesson in ventriloquism. I teach them how to do one little sound and how it's all working mechanically. I'm not a ventriloquist, but I give a single lesson. They see some dummies demonstrated, a variety of them actually, some that are very simple hand puppets all the way up to some very, very complex dummies. So they learn about the types of dummies and puppets that are out there, and it kind of helps them become familiar with options. Then we also promote our convention that we have every July. That is the absolute best place to meet other ventriloquists and to learn and grow as a ventriloquist. We do have usually, it's several hundred people, 400 to 500 people from about a dozen countries that come every year. And especially since Darcy Lynn won America's Got Talent, the number of young people who come has grown substantially. And so we offer a course during our convention called Junior Vent University, where it's just beginner kids who get one-on-one coaching from professional ventriloquists. So it's a great opportunity if they're just getting their feet wet in that. And they also have an opportunity to do open mic if they want to at the convention.
Excellent. Now, when it comes to the museum itself, is it something that is by appointment or people can walk in? How does one go to the museum? Do you need reservations?
So the museum is open from May 1st through September 30th. And yes, everybody who wants to come pre-registers. So I am the only employee of the museum. And so we have a very structured way of coming in, but they can go to the website, venthaven.org, and then they can click visit, and they will, through a series of clicks, you'll get to the schedule, the whole calendar for the touring season, and they can register for any of the tours that are available. Typically, I do 2 tours a day, sometimes 3, and all of those options are on the website, so they can pick what they want out of all of the options available.
I'm looking at a picture which has a lot of the dummies sitting down and basically looking at the camera. Does that ever creep people out when they walk into a room and they see all these eyes, like, looking back at them?
Right. There's definitely that real reaction that people have, kind of an uncanny valley response that is super common, and I deal with it all the time. And so what I try to do is I help people try to decode that, because when you really start to analyze that, why is that happening? And so it's very common. For a lot of people, their only exposure to ventriloquism is the scary movie, like Magic with Anthony Hopkins, or maybe a Twilight Zone episode or something like that, or Goosebumps or whatever. So I'm very used to talking about that and the uncanny valley and how we respond to eye contact. And when your experience has been that you've always seen dummies and puppets animated and there they are just sitting, that can be very off-putting, especially in the numbers that we have. So it's very common response, and most people, your brain gets saturated with it pretty quickly, and within 5 minutes or so, 5 or 10 minutes, it's gone, and then people can kind of really get into the how and why of why that's happening.
Well, again, congratulations on the Vent Haven Museum. People can go to the website venthaven.org. Thank you very, very much, Lisa, for being on the program with us.
I really appreciate you having me, Peter. Thank you so much.
Lisa Sweasy, curator of the Vent Haven Museum. You can go to my website at thestuffile.com, check out the show number for this program, which is show number 0769, and you'll find links to the museum site, which includes information on visiting the museum and also information for the annual Dummy Run.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestuffile.com. Stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestuffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.